Hi, this is Tim Kaine. Thanks for calling my Washington, D.C. office. Due to high call volumes, all Senate offices are experiencing intermittent problems with their phones. Your best option to make sure you can share your opinion with me is to visit my website, kaine.senate.gov. For your convenience, I've added a special nominations comment form on our homepage. Otherwise, if you'd like to share your thoughts with me on an issue before the Senate, please press 1 now to leave a voicemail. And if you'd like to speak with a member of my staff on an issue, a concern, or a constituent service matter, please press 2. Thanks so much. Thanks for calling Senator King's office. Please hold.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you for calling Senator King's office.
Yes, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good. I had submitted a constituent request for assistance with an agency.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. For what?
Yeah, assistance with a federal agency.
Yes, a federal agency.
Yeah, it's actually the FBI. There is an individual who has evidently had an AOL account since at least the late 1990s, engaging in, I guess, like harassment type of communication, which is actually a violation of federal law, 47 U.S.C. 223C. And I was able to, basically, since he had an AOL account, I was able to use the header information to actually obtain an IP address, which you can link to an actual physical address. I reported it to both the Alexandria and Arlington police and even to Mark Perry, but they will not move against this individual. So I was...
Okay, so I can barely hear what you're saying. So there is an individual who has done harassment on an AOL account?
Yes.
Who works for the FBI?
No, he doesn't work for the FBI. And since it's a federal crime, I reported it to the FBI, but I wanted to see if Senator King's office could help us to actually get this individual.
So the person is not, you reported it to the FBI?
Yes.
But not, okay, so, and your local police person can't do anything about it?
They haven't done anything. I got the address, I got everything that they possibly need, but they won't even move on it.
Okay, so normally we just recommend that you contact your local police person and, FBI, the government's shut down right now, but hold on just 1 second.
Sure.
Hello, sir?
Yes.
Okay, so unfortunately the senator has no authority over legal matters. If you had an issue specifically directed with this agency, he could try and help get it resolved, but they recommend that you talk to your local law enforcement. You can also file on Senator King's website. You can file kind of like a claim, and caseworkers might be able to follow it if nothing is proceeded with it. But he has no jurisdiction over legal matters, so he cannot force, for example, policemen to act or not act.
True. Under normal circumstances, true, but I guess the problem is that it's used as a political weapon.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Your phone's in and out.
I'm sorry, I said he's been used as a political weapon to counter against Republican independent candidates.
You're being used as a legal weapon to what?
No. The person that's doing this has been doing this against people that oppose the Democratic Party. He's been supporting Don Myers, supporting Nicolo Macchiavelli and Tim Kaine. This is a Democratic Party problem, and I think that's why we're running into this resistance with the police in terms of actually going against it.
Well, if it's a local harassment charge, there's nothing that the senator doesn't have authority over it, because it's something you just file with your local police, unfortunately, even things related to politics.
But the thing is that he should be concerned if people are doing this on his behalf.
That's about a fair statement, and he is concerned about that. So that's what I'm saying, if you file on the website a claim that his Richmond office deals more with this, like the casework.
Sure.
They can look at it, but unfortunately, because he is a public servant, just like people would harass in the name of any president or whatever, unfortunately, they can't arrest or do whatever on behalf of them, but please fill out the information on the website so we can keep track of it.
Okay, sure. Thank you very much.
Have a great rest of your day.
Sunday was the day, July 14th, that President Trump had pre-announced that massive deportation and immigration raids were about to begin. Looks like those raids maybe didn't start on Sunday, but the communities of immigrants in Virginia and elsewhere who've been experiencing tremendous fear had that fear dramatically accelerated by the announcement. On Sunday, my wife and I we live in Richmond, and we went down to a town called Kilmarnock, about an hour and 10 minutes away from us, where my wife's parents are in a nursing home. They're 95 and 93 years old. And we went down to spend the day with my in-laws and to take my mother-in-law to church at the local Episcopal church where she has long been a member. I was struck by the readings. I was struck by, it was a day of fear for many immigrant communities, and the readings that occurred in the Episcopal Church, which are readings that are delivered in Catholic and Presbyterian and other churches on a set schedule, struck me as I was thinking about the fear in these communities. The Old Testament reading normally in most churches around the globe, Catholic and Episcopal, is reading from Deuteronomy, but for some reason the pastor of this church, it was his goodbye ceremony. He was leaving after serving for an interim, and he had switched the Old Testament reading and instead put in a reading from the Old Testament, the book of Amos chapter 7, verses 7 through 9. This is what he showed me. The Lord was standing by a wall that had been built true to plumb, with a plumb line in his hand. And the Lord asked me, "What do you see, Amos?" "A plumb line," I replied. Then the Lord said, "Look, I am setting a plumb line among my people, Israel. I will spare them no longer." A plumb line is a device used when you're constructing something. It's just a weight on a string, non-magnetized, and it will show up and down so that you can build something that is square, that has a solid foundation. It's a reading about principles and values and what is a solid foundation. The gospel reading that we heard in our church, in tiny church in Kilmarnock around the world, was the Good Samaritan story. Jesus is being pestered by a lawyer about what do I do to inherit eternal life, and Jesus says, "You know the answer. Tell me the answer." And the lawyer does. He's smart. Love God and love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus says, "Fine, you know the answer, just live that way." But the lawyer, either to trap Jesus or because he was confused or he was trying to figure something out, says, "But who is my neighbor?" And then Jesus tells the story of a person beaten on the road to Jericho, lying at the side of the road. Some passed by, pretending not to notice, though they do notice. Some notice and sort of half go over to help but don't do anything. But one person, a Samaritan, in the Bible, Samaritans were despised minorities because they didn't worship like other people did. The Samaritan actually is the one that goes and helps. And as everyone knows the story, takes care of the person who's beaten, takes him to an inn, pays the innkeeper and says, "And I'll even pay you more, I'll settle up, make sure that you nurse him back to health." This Samaritan was the one who was the neighbor. And when Jesus then goes back to the lawyer and say, "Which was the one who was the neighbor to the person who was beaten?" The lawyer is so infected by the prejudice of his day, he can't even say the Samaritan. Because, again, Samaritans were despised people, much like refugees or migrants or migrant kids seem today to be despised people. The lawyer couldn't even make his lips say the word, the Samaritan. Who was the neighbor to the person who was beaten? He can't even answer the question, the Samaritan, but he does know the answer. And instead he says, "The one who showed him mercy." The one who showed him mercy. Those were the readings that we heard, that the Lord will set a plumb line to try to determine whether the nation, in that instance Israel, was behaving properly or not. And in terms of what the plumb line is, what is the moral standard, the Lord is encouraging us to be neighbors, and not just to the people like us, not just to the people who are our next door neighbors, but even to people who are down on their luck, beaten, despised, hurting. Sunday was also another day that it was Woody Guthrie's birthday. Woody Guthrie, great American songwriter, known for This Land Is Your Land, so many other songs that are part of who we are as a people. Woody Guthrie wrote a song in 1948 called Plane Wreck at Los Gatos, and the song is more commonly known by the name Deportee. We've lived this history before. In 1948 in California, there was an effort to deport so many people. There are times when we desperately want immigrants here to do the work, and then there's phases where they get deported. And Woody Guthrie was listening to the radio, and this is a man born on July 14, the day that the president announced the deportation raids would start. Woody Guthrie was listening to a radio in 1948, January of 1948, and he heard a story about a plane that was taking deportees back to Mexico, and the plane crashed in Los Gatos Canyon near LA. And the pilot and some others were killed, and 32 deportees were killed. Woody Guthrie was struck that when the story was told on the radio, they mentioned the names of the pilot and the co-pilot and the others who were working on the plane, but the 32 deportees who were killed, their names weren't mentioned. They were, quote, just deportees. Here are the lyrics to the song, the Woody Guthrie song, written based on an incident in January 1948, but our history repeats itself. The crops are all in and the peaches are rotting, the oranges piled in their creosote dumps. They're flying them back to the Mexican border to pay all their money to wade back again. Goodbye to my Juan, goodbye Rosalita, adios mis amigos Jesus y Maria. You won't have your names when you ride the big airplane. All they will call you will be deportees. My father's own father, he waded that river. They took all the money he made in his life. My brothers and sisters come working with fruit trees, and they both took down and died. Some of us are illegal, and some are not wanted. Our work contract's out, and we have to move on. 600 miles to the Mexican border, they chase us like outlaws, like rustlers, like thieves. We died in your hills, we died in your deserts, we died in your valleys, and died on your plains. We died neath your trees, and we died in your bushes, both sides of the river. We died just the same. The sky plane caught fire over Los Gatos Canyon, a fireball of lightning, and shook all our hills. Who are all these friends, all scattered like dry leaves? The radio says they are just deportees. Is this the best way we can grow our big orchards? Is this the best way we can grow our good fruit? To fall like dry leaves, to rot on the topsoil, and be called by no name except deportees.
No way in the course.
Along with several other colleagues, earlier this week I filed a bill called the Stop Cruelty to Migrant Children Act. It is a bill that has 40-plus co-sponsors. It would do a number of things. It would set safety and health and nutrition standards in these facilities whose pictures we are seeing, pictures that set an embarrassing example of a nation that should want to set a good example. So it would set minimum standards for food and nutrition and health care. It would guarantee that children in these facilities would receive 3 meals a day and that the meals would be of adequate nutritional value. It would end the practice of family separation unless ordered by a court, so the presumption would be families could not be separated. It would provide additional resources for lawyers so that people can follow the rule of law and present evidence and present a case for asylum or refugee status if there is a case to be presented. It would allow the restart of programs like the Family Case Management Program, which was a successful program that enabled people to be placed in community settings, not cages or jails or institutions and have management to make sure that they then come to court dates on time. The bill has a number of provisions that I think are worthy, but the thing that's the most important about the bill to me and why I agreed to co-sponsor it is I just think it puts our country in a position where we're setting the right example, not the wrong example. It puts our country in a position where if the plumb line of right and wrong is applied to us, we're on the right side of that judgment. It puts us in a position where, as we are being directed to be good neighbors, including to people who are hurting, including to people who are suffering, we would be able to look ourselves in the mirror and look the world in the eye and say the United States believes that we are good neighbors and we are behaving in a neighborly way toward people. These issues are of massive importance to the individuals involved. There was a story earlier this week about a border agent requiring a young girl, you're going to be separated, your parents are going to be separated, and you have to decide whether you go with your mother or your father. Why make a child of tender years make that choice? The young girl's name was Sophie. Many of us know the Virginia author William Styron's book, Sophie's Choice. Sophie forced to make an existential choice between her children in a concentration camp in Poland during World War II. That's the choice, that's the existential choice in the heart of that novel. When tiny Sophia is being told, we are separating your mother and father, you have to choose between them. Should a child have to do that? None of us would tolerate that for our own family members. None of us would tolerate that for a member of our community. So is it fair to do that to a child of tender years because she happens to be somebody who's come from Central America? These issues are of immense importance to the individuals involved, to the Sophies, to the father and daughter who tried to get across a river a few weeks ago and drowned as they were trying to do it. They had come thousands of miles and they were so close. All they wanted to do was apply for asylum legally. Can you accept my application? We're not trying to sneak across. We want to apply legally and then have the laws of your country apply to us so we can justify. Please do that. But when they reached the border, we were taking so few applications that they waited and waited and waited. So far, being so close that they could touch the bank. They almost got to touch the bank of this nation that they had dreamed might offer them a better life. Their case, had they been able to apply, may or may not have been guaranteed that they met the standards, but all they wanted was the opportunity to apply to enter this greatest nation. So, Mr. President, I'll just conclude and say I hope in the days ahead, I know there's discussions going on between members of this body, between members of this body and the White House about what we might do. I just want us to do something that we can look in the mirror and be proud of. I want us to do something that we can put as an example for ourselves and for others. I want the plumb line that separates good and bad behavior, foundations that are morally strong versus those that are shaky and weak, to judge us fairly. I want us to be neighborly. I want us to be neighborly in the best traditions of who we have always been. With that, Mr. President, I yield the floor and I note the absence of.
And so in November, it is a referendum election where you have the power to choose between the party of manumission, slavery, oppression, Jim Crow, and subjugation, or to choose the party of emancipation. In November, you have the power to choose between the party of welfare entitlement and government dependency, or the party of opportunity. In November, you have the power to choose between the party of underperforming public schools and achievement gaps or the party of school choice. You have the power to choose between the party of mandatory union membership or the party of a right to work. You have the power to choose between the party of universal socialized medicine or the party that will let you choose your provider and your doctor and your insurance plan. In November, you have the power to choose between the party of awaiting the arrival of law enforcement or the party of the right to stand your ground and defend yourself. In November, you have the power to choose between the party of higher taxes and growing bureaucracies or the power of lower taxes and self-determination. It is your party and it is your choice. I am a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican, in that order. And I am not ashamed of the gospel. My name is Major Mike Webb, and I am running for U.S. Congress, not unmindful of the future, with liberty and excellence. Let's make America great again. Honest.
This advertisement was authorized by Mike Webb.